Okay, welcome everyone to the Dream Circle, sponsored by the Theosophical Society of America. Our host is Vish Durga, who is also a participant, and our facilitators are myself, Gwen Mayer, and Dr. Weiler Green, and sometimes Cy Ginsberg, who started our group. So we're kind of glad to have him back. Anyway, today, do I have control? Oh, yeah, there you go. I have the second part of our work with Dr. Robert Johnson, who is a Jungian, and this is on the second part of the dream work on the shadow work that he did. And it's talking about connecting our dream image to a specific dynamic in your inner life. And most dreams are about our inner life. So for each image, you ask, what part of me is that? Where have I seen it functioning in my life lately? Where do I see the same trait in my personality? And who is it inside me that feels like that and behaves like that? Then write down each example. Always begin by applying your dream inwardly to your inner life, not projecting outwardly. Sometimes the urge to take a dream image when it's another person literally is overwhelming, especially if it's someone or something we greatly desire or something or someone we are in conflict with. Don't. Dream images are almost without fail about our inner selves. Now, I kind of rebelled against this because I have a 20-year marriage. I'm always dreaming about my husband of that, and I usually like to think if it's a good dream that it really is about him, but this kind of got my attention, so it really is about my animus probably. Anyway, one of those troubles.
What about times when the dream is something about out there and there's hardly anything that one can map into the inner life?
Well, Vish, I wish I knew the answer to that, and I don't, and maybe someone else has a suggestion, because I often dream of things that there's no way I have any connection on an inner life level. But, Weiler, do you have anything to say about that? Because I have no earthly idea why that happens. And Weiler, you have to unmute yourself. Or Vish, unmute him.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think what Jung focused on was that you have to look at it both ways. You have to look at the outer possible meaning of the dream, and you have to look at the inner. And I think that that balance is kind of important too, because dreams can be about other people, and they can certainly at the same time be about an aspect of ourselves that's kind of resonating or dissonating with that other person.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it to answer your question, I think it's in both cases a lot of times, but I struggle with what you're asking all the time. So I can't actually. I agree with what Weiler is saying about Jung, and Jung struggled with it himself. So, we go on and on here. The most practical way to connect an image to yourself is to ask yourself what traits you have in common with the image or the person. What are the main characteristics? If a person, how would you describe their character or personality, and where do you find those same traits in yourself? And that seems to be helpful.
Gwen?
Yes.
This is what we were talking last time. Robert Johnson also made a way that you can externalize an image and establish a dialogue with it.
Yes.
But it's so hard for us to know which part of me is that. And when we externalize, it's a good way to get to it. And he does it a lot of that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes it's a lot of dialoguing. I mean, it's not just a simple answer. You know, it takes quite a bit of inner dialogue, outer dialogue to do that.
Right. Because sometimes it's so hard to see it as part of ourselves.
Yes.
And when we externalize and dialogue with the image, then it becomes clear.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
I have a question.
What?
This is Sai. I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. If you have the same image, hello?
Yeah.
If you have the same image in a series of dreams, for example, you said, Gwen, that you dream a lot about your husband. Does that make it more significant in terms of what Johnson is talking about? In other words, if it keeps reinforcing because the image is the same, it would seem like that's a reason to pay more attention to it.
Well, I'll give you an example. Aside, I do pay a lot of attention to my dreams about him because I had a dream before he had Parkinson's. He has Parkinson's. And about 2 years before that, before he was diagnosed, I kept having dreams that I was in a function, a family function, and his hand was shaking, and I kept trying to hold his hand so it would steady him. Well, 2 years later, after the dream, we're sitting at a graduation of one of our grandkids, and his wife said, "You need to sit by him because his hand shakes so much. Sometimes he'll reach out and try to, it hits." And she said, and he's very embarrassed by it. So I was holding his hand through the whole graduation ceremony, which, you see, I wouldn't have known that in the dream. But I also have dreams where I have to really think about the characteristics. He was the opposite of me in the way he took care of himself and everything. So it was like I have to look at that and what that's showing me about me. So I can see where it's in several different connotations. Does that answer your question?
Well, not entirely. My question was, if let's assume you have the same dream, or not exactly the same, but your husband shows up, maybe shaking his hand or something in a series of dreams, or at least in a couple of dreams, can you attribute more significance to that in terms of whatever it is in yourself that it might be representing, rather than just one dream? That's my question.
I'd like to say something here from Sai's question and what Gwen answered. I feel sometimes these dreams where, like you dreamt about your husband's illness before it was diagnosed, but the dream itself may use that image so that you would remember the dream. It takes something from the future, and the dream itself is saying something else, probably about you, or, how you view your husband. That depends on what the rest of the dream was. But it uses this one fact from the future because this will stay in your head and remind you, you'll pay attention to the dream. That's what I've seen. And whereas, when this happens, you think it's about that, what happened in the future, but it may not be. It may just be using that to bring it to your attention. Over.
Yeah, thanks, Sujata. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, dreams often speak in extremes in an effort to grab our attention. Because we often repress the best parts of ourselves because we think of them as negative qualities. These parts can only take part in our lives by stealing our time, by stealing our energy through compulsions or neurosis. Now, this is, to me, this is a lot of discussion because as therapists, this is what we deal with a lot of times, to try to find out because the shadow is very important in dream work, and so it's important to explore rather than to try to analyze and get a firm answer. Exploring and investigating seems to be the biggest thing we need to do, especially in situations like this. Our egos divide the world into good and bad, positive and negative. Most aspects of our shadow can become valuable strengths if we can become conscious of them. You will never find anything in the unconscious that will not become useful and good once made conscious. And only you will be able to say what part of you is represented by this shadow. And that's very important to remember, that only you are interpreting and perceiving what part of it. Okay, yeah.
When we are on the top of the mountain, do we dream? You're muted. Gwen, you're muted. 1 second. I unmuted you. 1 second. I'm unmuting you now again. Okay. You're now unmuted.
So on the top of the mountain, I think daydreaming is very important as well as sleep dream. And when I'm on top of the mountain in meditation, I'm still in a dream state. So if that answers your question.
I also wanted to add something connected to what Eliosa said about the dialogue. I feel even the kind of conversation we have in a group like this, where you just bring up your dream images and let other people respond to them, helps with that. And I wanted to tell you all that after our last discussion, I had a dream. I don't remember the dream itself, but it was about the same two people, Nora and Muhammad. But in my dream, I told myself, oh, look, I'm having another dream about these people, and the group talked to me about them. I didn't bring back the dream, but I think that was something like the dialogue that she mentioned.
And that's also part of a lucid dream, too. I've done the same thing, Sujata. When people have images that they come up with in my dreams that I've shared, it always helps me because I'm thinking as I'm dreaming, oh, there's that image. And, you know, it's happened quite frequently. So I think it's valuable to hear everyone's, even though it's their own personal view and as if it were their dream, but I think it's valuable to all of us to get this.
This is Sai. This is what I was getting at. What Sujata reported, that she had another dream with the same two characters. It strikes me that whatever the inner quality of these characters is, that is whatever Sujata perceives their inner quality in herself, is more important if you dream it more than once. This is what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm kind of asking the question, but it just seems that it would make sense that the dream mechanism is repeating it for a purpose, so that if you don't get it the first time, you'll get it the second time over.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes that much for me to get it. So second and third and fourth and fifth time. So by thinking of each dream figure as a natural person living inside you, you can ask questions like, where have I seen this person at work in my life lately? Where in my life have I seen him doing what she or he did in the dream? What part of me is that feels like that, thinks like that, behaves like that? Pay attention to where you are in the dream, as it may give you clues as to whose influence you're under. If you are in your grandmother's house, for example, you might be under the influence of the Great Mother archetype. In my dreams of pennies, I was on a bridge, a symbol with obvious connotations. animals may represent animal instinct or consciousness, something primordial. But like all images, they have both negative and positive connotations. So, I think that even though we do a dream, and we're going to do Carol's dream today, the dream definitely is connected to something that's going on, usually, in your life at that time. So, just trying to remember that. I don't think it's happenstance that you have the dreams you have. I think they're answers to questions you've got going on in life, period. So, okay, we're going to go to Carol's dream. And you want to turn off the recording, please, Vish?